During the heat of a playoff loss, Paul Pierce walked past the opposing bench and flashed a hand sign linked to the Piru Bloods. John Wall, on the other hand, did it in a viral party clip.
Fucking with Bills? Fucking with Bills, yeah.
Turns out, these aren't just random hand movements. In this video, I'm breaking down the gang signs NBA players have thrown and what they really mean. Let's begin with Paul Pierce. Picture this. It's April 26, 2008, Game 3 of the first-round playoff series between the Boston Celtics and Atlanta Hawks. The Celtics are down 102-93 with just 22.2 seconds left on the clock. Pierce, frustrated and probably heated from the loss, walks over to the Hawks bench and directs a hand gesture at Atlanta player Al Horford. Now here's where it gets spicy. The gesture involved raising his right hand, forming a circle with his thumb and index finger, and extending the other three fingers together. To most people watching at home, it probably looked like Pierce was just being dramatic. You know how players get when they're frustrated. But to those who know the streets, that gesture meant something completely different. See, gang expert Joya Leap, a UCLA associate professor and advisor to Los Angeles officials, identified the gesture as a classic Piru blood sign. Now, for those who don't know, the Piru Bloods are some serious players in the gang world, and they got their name from Piru Street in Compton, California. Here's the kicker. The Piru Bloods are prominent in Inglewood, where Pierce grew up. The plot thickens when you realize that Pierce attended Inglewood High School, right in the heart of territory where these colors and signs matter. Now, I'm not saying Pierce was banging or nothing like that, but growing up in Inglewood during the 90s, man, you definitely knew what certain gestures meant, whether you were affiliated or not. Initially, the gesture went unnoticed by referees, with no technical foul called. Even crazier, major newspapers, including the Boston Globe, the Boston Herald, and the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, didn't mention it the following day. It's like everybody was trying to pretend it didn't happen. But the internet never forgets, and when a YouTube video of the gesture garnered over 204,000 views, the league couldn't ignore it anymore. The NBA came down hard, fining Pierce $25,000 for a menacing gesture. That's real money, even for an NBA player. Now Pierce and the Celtics went into full damage control mode. On May 1st, 2008, before Game 5, Pierce issued a statement denying gang affiliations. "I 100% do not in any way promote gang violence or anything close to it. I am sorry if it was misinterpreted that way at Saturday's game." He even highlighted his foundation's efforts to provide positive influences and safe havens for inner-city kids. But the Celtics' explanation was even more interesting. Celtics GM Danny Ainge claimed the gesture symbolized blood, sweat, and tears, a ritual Pierce performed during pre-game introductions. Some fans even suggested the gesture was a B for Boston or tied to local culture. However, gang expert Joya Leap wasn't buying it. She noted that while the gesture does not inherently convey a threat, its recognition as a gang sign carries an element of threat no matter what. She even criticized the NBA's fine, arguing it glamorized the gesture and could inspire mimicry, especially among youth. The crazy part? The incident did not significantly affect Pierce's career. He led the Celtics to an NBA championship in 2008, earning Finals MVP honors. But if Paul Pierce's gesture left people guessing, John Wall's actions left no room for interpretation. John Wall. Now let's talk about John Wall, and boy, does this brother have a story that'll make you understand why some players just can't escape their past, no matter how much money they make. Wall's first brush with controversy happened way back in 2015. During a playoff game against the Atlanta Hawks, he celebrated an assist to Bradley Beal by forming a circle with his fingers and shouting, "Big B's!" a reference to the Bloods. Now that incident was largely dismissed as a heat-of-the-moment outburst, kind of like when you're hyped up and say something you probably shouldn't. The league basically looked the other way. But fast forward to September 2020, and Wall found himself in much deeper water. We're talking about a situation that would change the trajectory of his entire career. On September 13th, 2020, a video posted on X by the account Too Cool 2 blog went viral, showing John Wall at a party in Brooklyn, New York. Now this wasn't just any party footage. In the video, Wall is seen shirtless, making hand gestures associated with the Bloods gang and pulling out a red bandana, a symbol commonly linked to the gang. Let me paint you the full picture here. The video also captured Wall and others using profanity and displaying a stack of money. To make matters worse, this happened during the COVID-19 pandemic, and Wall's lack of a mask or adherence to social distancing protocols drew additional criticism. The optics were terrible. Here you have a max contract player, someone who's supposed to be the face of the Washington Wizards franchise, throwing up gang signs while counting money during a global pandemic. It looked reckless, irresponsible, and downright tone-deaf. The hand signs Wall displayed in the 2020 video are associated with the Bloods, one of the most notorious street gangs in the United States. The Bloods, originating originating in Los Angeles, used specific hand gestures and symbols, such as the red bandana, to signify membership or affiliation. The red bandana, prominently featured in the video, is a well-known symbol of the Bloods, further reinforcing the gang-related context. The backlash was swift and brutal. The video sparked widespread discussion on social media, with NBA fans and commentators expressing disappointment. The incident trended on X, with reactions ranging from criticism of Wall's judgment to debates about the appropriateness of such actions for a professional athlete. Realizing he had messed up big time, Wall issued a public apology via X, stating, "First and foremost, I want to apologize to my family, my teammates, and all of those that have always supported me. I made a mistake, something I regret. I will continue to work hard to be better on the court, and more importantly, off the court." But here's where it gets really interesting and expensive. The incident reportedly caused significant tension within the Washington Wizards organization. According to Chris Miller of NBC Sports Washington, the video rubbed a lot of people within the organization the wrong way, suggesting that it damaged Wall's standing with team management. The consequences were severe. In December 2020, just months after the incident, Wall was traded to the Houston Rockets in exchange for Russell Westbrook and a 2023 lottery-protected first-round pick. Now, the trade had multiple factors, including Wall's expensive contract, $41.2 million for 2020 to 21 and $44.3 million for 2021 to 22, and his injury history. But reports suggest the gang signs incident played a role in the Wizards' decision to move on from him. What's really tragic about Wall's story is the context. At the time of the incident, Wall was navigating significant personal and professional challenges. He had not played since December 2018 due to a ruptured Achilles tendon, which sidelined him for the entire 2019 to 2020 season. Additionally, he had lost his mother, Frances Pulley, in December 2019 and was adjusting to fatherhood with 2 young sons. Wall's post-incident career has been a journey of ups and downs. In 2020 to 2021 with Houston Rockets, he played 40 games and averaged 20.6 points, 6.9 assists. But in 2021 to 2022, he mutually agreed not to play as team focused on younger players and got a contract buyout in June 2022. In 2022 to 2023 with Los Angeles Clippers, he signed a 2-year, $13.2 million contract, averaged 11.4 points, but was traded back to Rockets and waived in February 2023. The gang signs incident overshadowed Wall's positive contributions to the community. Despite these challenges, Wall had a strong record of community service, including raising over $550,000 for rent assistance through his 202 assist fundraiser in June 2020 and leading a Juneteenth march. Now, if John Wall got caught slipping off the court, Ja Morant took it to a whole different level. On the timeline, in HD, and with millions watching live. Ja Morant.
Ja Morant had some form of gesture there. You can make that what you want.
Ja's story is different from the older cats we've talked about because this brother grew up in a different era, the social media era, where everything you do can go viral in seconds. But instead of using that knowledge to protect himself, he used it to create problems that almost derailed his entire career. Research indicates that Morant has been observed throwing up the N sign, a gesture commonly associated with the Crips gang during NBA games, particularly after scoring. Now, for those who don't know, the Crips are one of the most notorious gangs in America, and when you're throwing up their signs, you better be ready for the consequences that come with it. But here's where Ja's story gets really interesting and dangerous. A significant reaction came from Brick Baby, a Crips member and rapper, who publicly criticized Morant for portraying himself as a gangster. This ain't just some internet beef. This is real street politics spilling into the basketball world. According to Daily Mail, Brick Baby stated, "An asterisk, you ain't even from this S asterisk, you ain't even from this S asterisk, no way, shape or form," and challenged Morant to a meeting, betting he wouldn't show up. When real gang members are calling you out by name on social media, you know you've crossed a line you probably shouldn't have crossed. Brick Baby. They advised Morant to acknowledge he is a basketball player, not a gangster, and warned that continuing to throw gang signs could have serious consequences, such as needing to pay the Crips for the rest of your life. This is Street Code 101. You can't claim a set if you ain't from that life, and if you keep doing it, there might be consequences. The situation got even more complicated because this warning was echoed in other reports, such as New York Daily News, where Brick Baby emphasized the risks of Morant's actions. When multiple media outlets are reporting on gang members calling out NBA players, you know the situation has gotten out of hand. What makes Ja's case particularly frustrating is that there was also mention of an M sign, potentially interpreted as standing for Memphis or Mafia Crip, discussed in online forums like Reddit, though the primary focus has been on the Crips Association due to the N sign. So even when he might have been repping his city, people interpreted it as gang signs. The media coverage was extensive and mostly negative. Media outlets highlighted the controversy, with The Guardian noting Morant's risky and erratic behavior, including gang signs, as part of a series of troubling incidents. The Forbes timeline of Morant's controversies includes these actions alongside his social media gun incidents, suggesting a pattern that could jeopardize his career, including a potential $200 million sneaker deal. But the gang signs were just part of a larger pattern of reckless behavior. Morant's actions must be viewed in the context of other controversies, such as altercations and threats reported in The Guardian, and his second gun flashing incident on Instagram Live, leading to suspensions as detailed in Forbes. The NBA didn't take these incidents lightly. The league suspended Morant multiple times for his behavior, and each suspension cost him millions of dollars. More importantly, it damaged his reputation and put his future earning potential at risk. What's really wild about Ja's situation is that the gang signs, particularly the N for Crips, are gestures used by the Crips gang to signify affiliation or solidarity. By throwing these signs, Morant is perceived as associating himself with the gang, which is problematic given he is not a member. The implications of Ja's actions go beyond just basketball. This behavior is seen as disrespectful and provocative by actual gang members, as evidenced by Brick Baby's warnings. The implications include potential real-world consequences, such as gang retaliation, and professional repercussions, such as NBA disciplinary actions. And while Ja might be the poster child for doing too much on social media, James Harden's story proves that even a whisper of gang culture can follow you for years. James Harden. Now let's talk about James Harden, because this brother's story is a perfect example of how the lines between street culture, hip-hop culture, and basketball culture can get blurred in ways that create controversy and confusion. Harden's association with gang signs goes way back to his early days in the league, particularly during his time with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Several specific instances stand out, including during the 2012 Western Conference Finals against the San Antonio Spurs, when Harden was noted for throwing hand signs resembling blood gang symbols, especially in Game 5 on June 4, 2012. Here's where it gets interesting and messy. Harden also tweeted to rapper Lil Wayne using 5, a number linked to the Bloods' 5-pointed star, after Wayne complained about seating. The tweet said Harden's tweet to Lil Wayne saying, "Come to the next game, we got seats for you 5, was cited as gang-related, with 5 inches linked to the Bloods' 5-pointed star. The backlash from the hip-hop community was swift and brutal. Rappers Slim Thug and Lil Duval criticized him on X for false claiming and not being about that life. They noted his lack of toughness, referencing an incident where he was elbowed by Ron Artest, Meta World Peace, without retaliation. This is where street credibility becomes important. The Vlad TV article highlighted Harden's on-court gestures, which drew attention from rappers Slim Thug and Lil Duval, who criticized him on X for false claiming and not being about that life. When rappers from Houston are calling you out for fake gangbanging, that's a problem. But Harden's situation is complicated because his connections seem more social than criminal. The Sportster's article from December 15, 2018 suggested Harden's connections were more social, linked to friendships with rappers like Lil Wayne, rather than deep gang involvement, but still highlighted his use of gang-related symbols. The most recent controversy came much later in his career. On September 15, 2024, Harden shared a birthday photo on Instagram featuring a YSL Young Slime Life logo, as discussed in a Real GM forum post. From the same date, this logo is associated with rapper Young Thug's RICO trial for alleged gang activities. The post showed Harden wearing a Future shirt, whose record label is also YSL, leading to debates about whether the NBA should fine him. What's fascinating about Harden's case is how it highlights the intersection of basketball and hip-hop culture. Many discussions, such as those on Real GM and Reddit, framed Harden's actions within the broader intersection of basketball and hip-hop culture. His friendships with rappers and use of gang-related symbols were seen as part of celebrity signaling rather than evidence of gang membership. The NBA's response to Harden has been notably different from other players. The NBA has fined players for violent gestures, such as Dwayne Wade's throat-slashing gesture, as noted in a Reddit post from November 15, 2016. However, Harden and others like Jason Terry and J.R. Smith have not faced fines for gang signs, leading to debates about policy consistency. This inconsistency has led to criticism and confusion. Some fans argue the league fears finding high-profile players like Harden, while others see his actions as more cultural than criminal. The criticism from the hip-hop community really highlights the cultural complexities here. Some fans mocking Harden for wearing blue, Crips associated, while throwing blood signs, as seen in a Reddit post from November 4, 2015, shows how these cultural signals can get mixed up and create confusion. But not every gesture tells the same story. In Demar DeRozan's case, one simple hand sign had fans asking, is it gang-related or just game time celebration? Demar DeRozan. DeMar DeRozan's story is different from the others because it shows how sometimes a simple gesture can be misinterpreted when you come from certain neighborhoods. This brother grew up in one of the most notorious cities in America, and that background followed him throughout his career in ways both positive and challenging. DeMar Darnell DeRozan was born on August 7, 1989 in Compton, California, a city notorious for its high crime rates and gang activity, particularly involving the Crips and Bloods gangs. His upbringing was marked by significant challenges, including poverty and gang violence. The reality of DeRozan's childhood is heartbreaking. DeRozan has publicly shared harrowing experiences, such as losing two uncles to gang-related violence, one affiliated with the Bloods and the other with the Crips, and his brother Lamar in a drive-by shooting. In interviews, such as one with NBC Sports Chicago in 2021, he recounted losing a best friend to gang violence at a young age, and many others before graduating high school. But DeRozan's family made sure he didn't follow that path. Despite these adversities, DeRozan's family, particularly his father Frank and mother Diane, played crucial roles in steering him away from gang life. His father ensured he was never late to basketball practices and tournaments, while his mother provided tough love to instill resilience. The incident that brought DeRozan into our conversation happened during his time with the Toronto Raptors. In 2018, a photo posted by the Raptors' official Twitter account captured DeRozan making a hand gesture that resembled the letter C. This gesture sparked debate on social media, particularly on Reddit, where users in the Toronto Raptors subreddit discussed its meaning. Some interpreted it as a gang sign for the Crips, given DeRozan's Compton roots, while others argued it was the standard three-point celebration gesture, commonly used in the NBA to signify a successful three-point shot. One Reddit comment suggested the photo was taken after DeRozan hit a corner three-pointer and the Houston Rockets called a timeout, supporting the celebration theory. What made this situation different from the others is the response, or lack thereof. Notably, there are no mainstream news reports or official NBA statements indicating that the league investigated or disciplined DeRozan for this gesture, suggesting it did not escalate into a formal controversy. The fan discussion revealed interesting perspectives. The discussion highlighted a divide. Some fans believed the gesture had no place in the NBA and called for DeRozan to be fined, while others defended him, noting that his Compton background should not be held against him and that the gesture was likely innocuous. DeRozan's public statements have consistently emphasized his efforts to avoid gang life. DeRozan's public statements about his upbringing do not suggest any gang affiliation. In fact, he has emphasized his family's efforts to keep him away from gangs. His memoir and recent interviews, such as on the Run Your Race podcast in 2025, focus on surviving gang threats during high school basketball games, reinforcing his narrative of overcoming, not embracing, gang culture. DeRozan's memoir, Above the Noise, My Story of Chasing Calm, released in 2024, further details his struggles growing up in Compton, highlighting how basketball became his escape. The book paints a picture of someone who used basketball as a way out, not someone who was trying to represent gang culture. What's particularly interesting about DeRozan's case is how his childhood friendship with rapper Kendrick Lamar, also from Compton, underscores the shared environment of gang influence. Yet DeRozan has consistently focused on his basketball career, becoming a six-time NBA All-Star and Olympic gold medalist. The context of DeRozan's gesture is crucial. To understand the gesture, it is important to consider NBA culture, where players frequently use hand signals to celebrate plays. The three-point gesture involves extending the index and middle fingers while tucking the thumb, ring, and pinky fingers, which can resemble the C shape associated with the Crips in some contexts. Given the timing, post three-pointer, and the lack of official repercussions, it seems likely that DeRozan's gesture was intended as a celebration rather than a gang sign. However, the interpretation as a gang sign reflects the cultural lens through which DeRozan's actions are viewed, given his Compton background. DeRozan's career has continued to flourish despite this minor controversy. DeRozan's career has not been significantly impacted by this incident, as evidenced by his continued success, including his trade to the Sacramento Kings in 2024. And his ongoing status as one of the league's top scorers. His public image remains positive, with a focus on mental health advocacy, community contributions, and his role in popular culture, such as being mentioned in Kendrick Lamar's song Not Like Us during the 2024 rap beef with Drake. Now let's shift gears, because while DeRozan's moment was subtle, Gilbert Arenas found himself in a controversy so loud it involved actual guns in the locker room. Gilbert Arenas. Now, Gilbert Arenas is an interesting case because while he's often mentioned in discussions about NBA players and gang culture, his most famous incident wasn't actually about throwing gang signs. It was about something much more serious and much more stupid. Gilbert J. Arenas Jr., born January 6, 1982 in Tampa, Florida, was a prominent NBA player known for his scoring prowess and nicknamed Agent Zero during his tenure with the Washington Wizards. Drafted 31st overall in the 2001 NBA draft by the Golden State Warriors, Arenas became a three-time NBA All-Star and a three-time All-NBA team member, earning the NBA Most Improved Player award in the 2002-03 season. But Arenas will forever be remembered for one of the wildest incidents in NBA history. On December 21, 2009, Arenas and his Washington Wizards teammate Javaris Crittenton were involved in a locker room confrontation that shocked the NBA. The incident originated from a dispute during a card game on a team flight from Phoenix, where Arenas pocketed $1,100 Crittenton felt he owed, leading to heated arguments. The situation escalated when Arenas brought 4 guns into the locker room, daring Crittenton to shoot him, resulting in both players displaying firearms. Now here's where the gang connection comes in, not through Arenas, but through his teammate. Crittenton was explicitly linked to gang activity, joining the Mansfield Gangster Crips during his 2007 rookie season with the Lakers. Crittenton later faced charges related to gang activity, but Arenas was not directly implicated in gang ties, with reports suggesting he was seen as a prankster rather than a gangster. The consequences were severe for both players. On January 25, 2010, Crittenton pleaded guilty to a misdemeanor gun possession charge and received a year of probation, while 2 days later, NBA Commissioner David Stern suspended both players for the remainder of the 2009-10 season. Arenas was later charged with gun possession, serving 30 days in a halfway house, and his career trajectory declined, moving to the Orlando Magic before retiring in 2012. But Crittenton's story took a much darker turn. Crittenton never played in the NBA again, later sentenced to 23 years in prison in 2015 for a gang-related shooting death, highlighting his deeper ties to gang activity. The reason people might associate Arenas with gang signs is because of his tone-deaf behavior after the gun incident. Post-incident, Arenas' behavior, such as pointing finger guns during a game introduction, was tone-deaf and contributed to his indefinite suspension, but this was not framed as gang-related. When you're already in trouble for bringing guns to work, pretending to shoot people during player introductions is about the dumbest thing you can do. What's important to understand about Arenas is that, while Crittenton was explicitly linked to gang activity, joining the Mansfield Gangster Crips during his 2007 rookie season with the Lakers, Arenas was not. Reported to have thrown gang signs or been directly associated with gang membership, the lack of direct evidence for Arenas throwing gang signs suggests the query may stem from confusion with Crittenton's known gang ties or broader media narratives linking NBA players to gang culture. Arenas' involvement was more about the gun incident's escalation from a gambling dispute, with no specific reports of gang sign usage. The incident had long-lasting effects on how the NBA viewed player conduct. Media narratives at the time, however, sometimes painted the NBA as a thug league, associating such incidents with broader gang culture, though Arenas himself was not implicated in gang ties beyond this incident's context. Arenas later reflected on how the incident affected his career. Arenas later expressing in interviews that he believed media coverage contributed to the downturn of his career, though he acknowledged his own actions played a larger role. The man basically ended his own career over a card game dispute that got way out of hand. Gilbert Arenas' story serves as a cautionary tale about how quickly things can spiral out of control when egos, money, and poor decision-making collide. While he wasn't throwing gang signs, his association with someone who had real gang ties and his own reckless behavior created a situation that destroyed what should have been a Hall of Fame career. That brings us to the end of this video. For more interesting videos like this, click on the cards on your screen.